This is Experts on Call on AM 650.
Nice to have you back with us on Key Pacific's Talk About Strata on this really lovely day around Metro Vancouver. Got up to 15 degrees in the sunshine this afternoon. Our guest in studio is Sean Lang. Mr. Lang is president of Interprovincial Roof Consultants with home base in Cloverdale, as I recall, Sean.
That's right.
Tony Juventu is the executive director of the Condominium Homeowners Association, or CHOA, C-H-O-A. Terrific website, Strata fans. If you are considering moving into a strata for the first time, and our listeners, Tony, going through a lot of changes in life, many of which involve downsizing out of the old home in the burbs and maybe moving into something smaller and less maintenance in a different environment. And choa.bc.ca is the Condominium Homeowners Association website. It is a fabulous resource for anyone needing or wanting information about strata and condo living. Lines are open. Ken in Surrey, thank you for waiting, and welcome to the program.
Good evening, gentlemen. It's a question to do with contractors, roofing contractors, and whether or not they're members of the Roofing Contractors Association of British Columbia.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. My question is there a benefit to the client for hiring a member of that association or hiring a roofing contractor that is not a member of that association?
Well, the members of the RCABC do have to go through a strict vetting process in order to become members.
Let me stop you for half a second and point out that RCABC is the Roofing Contractors Association of British Columbia.
That's correct.
Okay, carry on.
Yeah, so they basically, they have to prove certain things. One is that their books are in order, that they have a dedicated office, and that they're a serious business. They have properly trained journeymen. Basically, they have to open themselves up to the RCABC, qualify, have been in business for 5 years, and all these qualifications speak to the ethics and the quality of that business. So even though there are good contractors that are not RCABC members, anyone that is an RCABC member has to go through that process and then maintain that process. So they're scrutinized for the 2 years following their acceptance as a member. They have to perform well, their books have to stay in order and all this sort of thing, so that they're not out there cheating people or doing less than perfect work. So yes, you do get a different sort of a contractor when they're an RCABC member, but I'm not saying that they're perfect. It's just that they've gone through that process, whereas some contractors don't, and they can basically fly any way they want to.
Any follow-up there, Ken?
Yes, I got everything there. Thanks very much for that answer.
Good to have you with us.
problem.
I appreciate you joining us. Tony, as Sean just indicated, there are professional designations in all sorts of areas of construction activity. And Ken's curious, a good curious question. Is it important to hire contractors or companies that belong to professional organizations? Clearly, he was looking for he used the word benefit. What's the benefit? What's in it for me to hire somebody who belongs to one of these professional societies or organizations?
Well, I think one of the benefits that we underestimate that is in such incredible value sometimes for consumers, especially strata corporations. Strata corporations want to know, when we bought a new roof, we got what we paid for. We had a secure value. We're not overrunning budgets, so that we're not going back to the owners for more money, and we're not going to be plagued with problems down the road, right? And as volunteers working for your fellow strata owners, that's the best thing that you can give to your owners.
Sure.
So actually using individuals who actually come out of certified disciplines where there is regulation, where there's a dispute resolution mechanism if there is a problem, or even worse, if something does go sideways, someone else is there to pick up the pieces.
Right.
That value can never be underestimated. It's interesting, people who criticize the essence of using consultants and contractors when they say, rather than having somebody independent, we'll just go straight to the contractor and we'll negotiate personally.
Right.
Well, that's fine, but you're only negotiating with one contractor.
Right.
That contractor knows that, and you now start having problems with conflicts.
And this is where my friend, the former Strata president in Kitsilano, went absolutely bonkers, because she knew nothing and had to rely on the integrity of these individual companies that would come by and pitch for whatever repairs or renovations were necessary.
And that's part of the problem, is that they're coming along and pitching whatever system or scope of work is suitable for them, really.
Right.
It's what their guys can do real easy and do real quickly with materials they have on hand. And I know that I used to be a roofing contractor. I'm actually a journeyman roofer. So I know that roofing contractors will store and stockpile materials that they use frequently. So they like to use the same rolls on a torch-on job, let's say, over and over and over. And they'll have extras left over from jobs, and they stockpile them. So when they try to sell you a job on their own, they're selling you this product that's actually been paid for by other clients.
Mm-hmm.
And they want to get that job from you using that material. They're going to take all that money. Now the materials are free, basically.
Right.
And they're putting that money in their pocket.
Right.
Which, okay, that's part of running a business, let's just say. But when you actually have a set of instructions, a detailed set of instructions that not only has material application, but it also has general instructions and contractual instructions in there on how this job is supposed to take place, and then you put it out to 5 different bidders, you're going to get everybody bidding on the same set of instructions.
And that's your point, Tony. If you're the Strata Council, whether you're the president or just a member, and you need some work done, and you know somebody, then you're going to do a deal with somebody you know. Whereas if you deal with a pro like Sean, he knows everybody. So he's going to be able to supply you with what would your minimum number of, if you do an assessment, you do a report for a Strata council, Sean, and you determine this work needs to be done. And, okay, so are you ready to go? And they say, sure, if it needs to be done, let's get it done. And so you're going to put this work out to tender, and you're going to accept bids from what would be the minimum number of bidders that you would look to have on any project?
5.
Really?
Yeah. Some people use 3.
Yeah, I was just going to say 3 would be the sort of magic number.
3 doesn't give you a wide enough range. We actually used to use 8, but we actually were getting a lot of feedback from the contractors saying the bid pool was just too big.
Sure.
And I actually had one project where the owners of the Strata actually kept on throwing contractors into the bid because we let them. And they ended up with 21 different bidders, and it was a gong show.
I'll bet.
So you not only want to make sure there is a cap on the limit, but also that the limit's not too low.
Mm-hmm.
Because 3, maybe they all know each other, right? So
Right.
now they're all going to price fix, let's
Right.
just say.
Okay.
When you have 5, you're decreasing those odds a little bit. And you also have a better variance. You can see better grouping. The low bidder may be out of the ballpark. He might be so low, the mid 3 are more grouped together, and the high bidder's way high.
Mm-hmm.
If you have 3, it just gives you more opportunity to check the pricing.
Interesting stuff. Now, Tony, things really go sideways. I mean, you can have problems with any contractor, but things really tend to go sideways when your brother-in-law or that guy you know gets the exclusive deal, and off he goes, and the whole thing goes south in several heartbeats. That's when you get called in, or you certainly get telephone calls.
Well, and the projects usually fail halfway through, or they're massive overruns in costs and they have to go back, or within a 1 or a 2 or 3 year window, we end up with serious problems where there are damages to the building. The roof is leaking. Nobody's coming back to fix it. I think one of the questions you have to ask yourself is, what is the warranty I'm getting?
Right.
Right. So I go to a contractor who's not an RCABC member. I don't have an inspector. And the contractor gives me a warranty as part of his contract. He's given me a condition in the contract. He's not given me an independent warranty. If I go through the process with the Roofing Contractors Association and I use an inspector and we purchase the warranty, we've purchased a warranty that is an independent insurance policy.
Aha.
And so if the contractor goes sideways, or if he doesn't want to honor his work, or there are negotiating problems with them, or they're no longer available,
You've got insurance backup.
the warranty still stands.
Yeah.
And that warranty is a contract as well, but it's a contract with another party.
Right.
And it binds you. I think this is one of the exercises that's great. It really binds the Strata Corporation to obligations like inspections and maintenance on their system.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just something we stick the roof on and we forget about it for the next 25 years when we need the next roof. And that's one of the problems that everyone has in everything in our lives: out of sight, out of mind.
Absolutely.
Right.
So what you're referring to is the RCABC guarantee.
Exactly.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's a third-party guarantee that's purchased from the RCABC by the roofing contractor and then provided to the client. And it does have an extra charge that goes along with it. And it's important to recognize that that guarantee covers leakage.
Yes.
It doesn't cover blemishes in the roof system or other issues like that. It's a leakage guarantee.
Right.
You still want to have a contractor's guarantee that covers workmanship. It's very important that you still have that, because I've actually experienced situations where there was no leak on the project, but there was a workmanship issue. something doesn't look right or there's a blister in the membrane.
Right.
And the only way to get that corrected is if you can lean back on that contractor and get him to go back on the job. And this goes back to having a proper, reputable contractor who's going to come back and actually do the work.
Right.
Well, and having a consultant, and you may need, depending on the scope of your work, you may need legal advice as well on the scope of the contract. Having someone to actually draw up a contract that protects your interests.
Well, and again,
You know?
we're talking some pretty big ticket items here. A roof on one of these big strata apartment style buildings with 300 units, and you're talking $1 million in some of these cases to slap a new roof on those buildings. So why wouldn't you get a lawyer for a few $100s to review that contract? So again, you're reducing your risk. It's all about reducing risk, isn't it, Sean?
Yeah. And sorry, Tony, it goes a long way to having a consultant involved in the sense that these contractors want to be on our bidding list. So when going back to their contractor's warranty, some contractors might walk away from that warranty and say, well, I don't offer much. But these guys have to perform in our eyes as well, because I'm going to put them on another list on the next job. So if they start to fail, if I've worked with a contractor for 5 years now, and I see that on his 2-year-old jobs and his 3-year-old jobs, he's not dealing with the issues that are coming up, because no job is perfect. There's always going to be issues. If he's not dealing with those issues in a timely manner, or if I have to make a phone call because the client's frustrated because he can't get a result out of the roofer, and I have to call the roofer to get a result, usually I'll get that result, but it tells me that I need to look at that contractor, maybe drop him off a few tender lists. So we have a bit of power that way, and that's why having somebody involved that's not the contractor, not the owner, it adds a big brother feel to the project.
So Tony, just before we take the break, why don't more strata councils use more people like Sean and mitigate the risk? And now you can't guarantee anything, but you certainly move along the possibility of getting it done right.
Well, it's either personal interest, that they have a family member or a friend who is a contractor that they want to use, or it's fear. And there's a fair amount of fear mongering in the industry where people will just simply say to them that you'll be overpaid and overgouging if you're using a consultant with the contracting process to set the specs and to supervise the scope of work. And it's done intentionally to prevent people from protecting themselves and acting in the interest collectively of their members of their strata corporation. You know, the other side of it is we talked about the president's brother as a contractor. Right? Well, the management company has a preferred contractor list, is another problem.
Sure, yep.
Right? By all means, it shouldn't preclude using them in the tendering process. And when we come back, we'll talk about that a little bit, because there can be some real conflicts about information and how it's shared with the contractors at the same time.
Okay, let me take that break now and remind you, too, if you're listening and you have some thoughts about experiences in your own strata or questions regarding consultants and contractors, lines are wide open at 604-280-0650. From out of town, hello, Vancouver Island. It's 1-877-280-0650. This is Quay Pacific's Talk About Strata on AM 650, and we'll be right back.
Delivering relevant and beneficial consumer information. This is Experts on Call, and there's more still ahead on AM 650.